Welcome to The Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm Mica.
Good news, guys. The video game industry is growing faster than ever. Bad news. You may not like the kinds of games that are making the most money.
Yes, according to a new study, the gaming industry has grown more than 10% this year, up to $116 billion in 2017.
That's a lot of loot boxes. It comes from game market researcher Newzoo, which gives us those numbers for the entire global game market. And the headline here is that the industry as a whole is making a lot of money and it's continuing to grow.
Newzoo even had to revise its numbers upwards by more than $7 billion for this year because the industry is growing even faster than it expected.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, but okay, so how does all of that break down?
Well, if you've been following the industry, the sector that made the most money probably won't come as a huge surprise. It's mobile.
Revenues from mobile games made a whopping $50.6 billion this year.
Whew.
Yeah, that makes up 43% of the entire global games market. So, yeah, that's pretty significant.
That's a lot of money. That's a big percent.
Yeah. While a lot of us might scoff at casual games, those filthy casuals, the fact is that they make a crap ton of money.
Yeah, I was really sad when I heard that they were going to make the sequel to Fantasy Life as a mobile title only because Fantasy Life was so good on 3DS. But given those kinds of numbers, I also get why they would try and make a mobile Fantasy Life. It might move more numbers. The next biggest segment is console gaming at $33.3 billion. Still a lot of money, slightly lower than was expected, but console gaming still had a growth rate of 3.7%, which is respectable.
And finally, there's the good old PC gaming, ranking in at $32.3 billion this year.
That's a lot of dollars too.
Still a lot of dollars.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure there are a lot of PC people who will note that it's one platform, PC, as opposed to all of console.
True.
But still.
Still, it's pretty good, and most of that $32.3 billion was in boxed and downloaded games, which made more than $27 billion, and the rest of the revenue came from browser-based PC games.
Who's still playing Farmville?
That is a solid question.
All right, so what does all this mean?
Well, for one, it shows that the rich video game companies are getting richer. That's according to VentureBeat, which wrote, "This year's results show that the game market is consolidating, with the highest grossing companies accounting for an ever greater share of the global games market. Public companies will represent more than 80% of global game revenues this year, up from about 75% in 2016.
That is actually also, it ties into with a lot of publishers saying that people are buying fewer games. A lot of publishers are actually building fewer games with the idea of just getting more people into those specific games. There is this consolidation going on around the industry at the moment. Analysts also say they expect the global games market to keep growing at an annual rate of more than 8% for the next few years. By the year 2020, Newzoo estimates that the global games market will be more than $143 billion. Oh my god, that's so much money.
That's a lot of money. And as for esports, Newzoo says that they are continuing to grow in popularity. While esports are at about $700 million in revenue for this year, Newzoo says that the total esports revenue could hit $2.5 billion by 2020, which is about $1 billion more than Newzoo previously estimated. Also, the Overwatch League is starting soon, and I'm very excited.
It's going to be all Overwatch all the time.
Yeah.
The researcher noted the growth of competitive mobile games in China and the rest of Asia, which are increasingly charting as the top grossing games in those areas. Newzoo wrote, "This has renewed confidence among the biggest Chinese publishers to bring their games to the West. Tencent's Arena of Valor is the obvious example. The abundance of new mobile battle royale titles sparked by the success of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds on PC could add to the rise of competitive gaming on mobile in the West."
That could explain why we're seeing interest on the part of companies like Tencent to get in on the ground floor of games like Battlegrounds and bring more competitive type games to mobile. They are currently working on a mobile-specific version of that game that will no doubt print a crap ton of money.
They don't even need to make a game. They just need to make a printer, plug it in the phone, put a PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds logo on it, and boom. Money. Newzoo said that the future growth of esports is going to depend on a variety of factors, including the success of local leagues, the implementation of regulations, the arrival of new game formats and competition, the uptake of content rights sales, team profitability, and the impact of industry convergence involving traditional media, entertainment, telecom, and sports companies. So, every factor. It's going to depend on every possible factor.
Over on the console side of things, we all know that Nintendo has had a blockbuster year with the successful launch of the Switch and a number of high-profile games for it, like Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey.
And Splatoon 2! As a result of all those hits, in addition to the reserves they already had on hand, Nintendo is currently sitting on a mountain of cash.
Yeah.
Japanese business publication Toyo Keizai just published its list of the 500 richest companies in Japan, and Nintendo is the biggest. They're the ones with the Scrooge McDuck pool. Nintendo currently has 946 billion yen in cash reserves, which translates to about 8.4 billion US dollars. So, whatevs. Yeah. It's not clear what they're going to do with it, but that's a lot of money.
I'm hoping for the Scrooge McDuck pool of yen. Just
it seems like it would hurt.
That's true. That paper cuts. All right, you know what? We'll come back to this. Sony isn't doing so badly either. It came in 4th on that list of Japan's richest companies, but Sony also makes a wide variety of electronics. Nintendo does just one thing. Games. Yeah. It just goes to show how quickly Nintendo's fortunes have changed, considering that they were hemorrhaging money a few years ago, back in the dog days of the Wii U. Rest in peace. Yeah, it's safe to say that things are looking pretty good for the big end these days.
Yeah, it is important to note before the Switch, a lot of gamers were predicting the fall of Nintendo and, oh god, they're the next Sega, they should just stop with the hardware, they're, losing all this money, but honestly, even then, the company did have cash reserves, like positive cash reserves, enough to continue running at a loss for several years, which is very unusual for companies, at least here in the US. Everyone's used to running on credit, but they had money in the bank. But it is true that the addition of the Switch is padding those reserves out big time. They're gonna need a bigger pool.
Or a giant solid gold statue of Link.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea.
I think we'll take one.
Yeah. As for the games industry as a whole, just how big is it compared to other industries? Is everybody building giant gold statues of Link?
Pretty big. So let's take a look at the movie industry. Video games now dwarf it completely. The gaming industry now makes more than 3 times the $38.6 billion in movie ticket sales that were reported in 2016. Big difference.
An important distinction there, of course. A single movie ticket doesn't generate nearly as much as revenue as, a game sale.
No, that's true. It does not. It takes a lot of movie tickets to make a single game sale.
Right. So people are still buying more movie tickets. But from a raw revenue perspective, yeah, it's still impressive to see video games do so well in comparison to a giant industry like Hollywood.
That's true. That's very true. So what's driving all this growth in video games? Well, this might not be music to gamers' ears, but microtransactions are driving a lot of it.
I still heard that through my ears covers.
I know.
So let's just look at one area to illustrate that point. According to a recent report from Superdata, PC gamers will spend $22 billion on microtransactions in free-to-play games just this year, which is twice the amount from 2012.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, and it's 3 times more than purchases of full games on PC and consoles combined. So yeah, microtransactions are a big reason why the gaming industry is growing so quickly.
Although it's fair to wonder if it could maybe be tapering off now, considering the negative response to microtransactions that gamers have had in games like Battlefront 2 recently. It's been a big black eye for publisher EA, and some analysts are saying the company overreached by making microtransactions so prominent in the game.
So maybe we've hit a saturation point when it comes to how much players are willing to be nickel and dimed by publishers.
We can only hope.
Especially when it comes to full-priced games. At least when it comes to Battlefront 2, players seem to have drawn the line in the sand and said, this is far enough. Stop it.
That is true. On the other hand, a lot of people say they hate loot boxes and microtransactions, but that money is coming from somewhere. Someone is spending a lot on microtransactions. I don't know, maybe it's like porn. We only do it while no one's watching and then pretend that we don't.
Nobody watches porn. What is porn? What are you talking about? At any rate, this report makes it pretty clear that as of now, the juggernaut that is the gaming industry doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
Well, what do you guys think of this latest report about the size of the gaming industry? Let us know in the comments.
And for all of your video game news, be sure to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the Know.
Yeah, we're not like porn. You don't have to pretend you don't watch us.
It's true. You could tell your friends, or you could tell your friends about porn if you want.
You watch it together.
Yeah.
Why not?
Bonding. Hold hands. Don't do that.
Depend on every possible factor.
Over on the console side of things, we know all that. That was almost applause for him, so mad.